Staying with Daybreak, the State of the Nation discussion is here. My guests are already with me. Let me introduce them one more time, starting from my farthest right, Honorable Joe Nyutu, Senator for Murang'a. Thank you for making time. Professor Tom Ojienda, Senator for Kisumu. Asante sana for making time. And Joshua Nyamori, Advocate and Chairman, Ramogi Professionals Caucus. Thank you very much for making time. And Honorable Samson Cherargei, Nandi Senator. Asante sana for making time. On 22nd of April, which was on Tuesday, Governor Nyong'o wrote a letter titled, "Allow governors to manage devolution." Let's bring that up later and to see what he was saying. He says that the truth is that the Ruto regime has decided to go back to pre-devolution times of the Nyong'o era. The 2010 constitution is a hindrance to its primitive accumulation schemes, which will affect not only devolution, but the very ethos of building of national democratic and developmental state. The Council of Governors and all progressive forces in our republic need to be aware of this fact and to resist it by all means necessary. The achievements of the second liberation must not be destroyed by this regime. Professor Tom Ojienda, this is your governor. Is the president clawing back on devolution? And do you agree with the letter from the governor?
The governor.
Trevor, Professor Nyong'o is the governor of Kisumu County, and I am the senator, and by dint of the Constitution and the provisions of Articles 96.
Yeah, 96 of the Constitution.
96, I have the inherent privilege to undertake oversight, apart from my legislative and representational duties over Kisumu. Of course, the governor was addressing the president, and I want to just demonstrate how inaccurate some of the statements are. Number one, devolution has a constitutional imperative or framework. And that's why you have Article 174 all the way to 189, setting out certain principles on devolution. The road fund, for instance, managed through a framework that creates two agencies created by the law, KURA and KERA. KURA for urban roads and KERA for rural roads has a deliberate framework that defines how, these are implementation agencies, how roads are dealt with. Of course, we have this 10.5 billion road fund, the RMLF, Road Maintenance Levy Fund, which is now at the heart of the communication by His Excellency Nyong'o. Last night, Trevor, it is not lost on us that the leader of majority indicated that that fund will remain there as long as MPs are not involved, because of this push between the national and counties. Of course, Senate, the overall obligation of Senate is to defend devolution. But while we defend devolution, we must also ensure that we do not just speak to devolution in politics, but in the reality. Trevor, let me just show you something that will surprise you, and this is important, that infrastructure is at the core of governance so much that we cannot ignore certain things. We cannot ignore the fact that since the advent of devolution, counties have benefited from funds. I'll just move by way of example, and that is just to show how inaccurate Governor Nyong'o's statements are. Since the advent of devolution, in fact, from the time of yes, from no, not even Jack, the first governor, when devolution came into place, Kisumu has secured, was appropriated. So far, we have secured. Kisumu has received 71.3 billion Kenya shillings, because we receive about 12 billion per financial year. Homa Bay has received 69.5 billion.
Nandi.
Migori 70.7 billion, Siaya 61.2 billion. Now we have key projects that are highlighted. Just to show you briefly, the Kabonyo Kanyagwal project, which is in Nyamori's backyard, is now underway at a cost of 2.5 billion. Thanks to some of these projects or some of the developers that have come in the advent of the new framework. We have specific projects. The Lake Victoria Marine Rescue Coordination Center at 800 million. These are projects that are ongoing, real projects. The Mbita Homa Bay and Kindu Bay rehabilitation, 600 million going on. Homa Bay Fish Market, that is also going on, plus the Rusinga Ring Road that is being constructed 1.2 billion. I just want to show Trevor that some of the pronouncements by Governor Nyong'o, though they are intended to show that counties need a grip on governance, cannot be further from the truth. You cannot compare the period after the enactment of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, in August 2010, to what was prevailing then. You cannot compare the regime of President Ruto to the regime of President Moi, when we had a unitary system where the national determined every process. Correct. And it is that time, Trevor, where the roads in Wamunyoro, the ones he's talking about, were all constructed during the Uhuru Kenyatta time and the previous time, when you had during right from independence, the central government determined every process, parliament determined every process. Then it was one parliament, it spoke the language of the executive. You cannot compare. And therefore, that's the statement by Governor Nyong'o is unfortunate to that extent. Right. To the extent that we must protect devolution, is correct that we need to have a framework that protects devolution. That's why we have Senate. We cannot therefore politicize reality. The reality is that we have a framework that protects devolution, that oversights devolution, that speaks to issues. Their LMF fund must be applied for the benefit of the people. It has to be appropriated through Parliament. Okay. How you then accuse President Ruto that we in the face of all these projects, that now we are back to Moi's time, is unfortunate. Okay.
Let me bring in Ruto on this. Do you agree that the truth is that the Ruto regime has decided to go back on pre-devolution times of the Nyayo era, like Professor Nyong'o was saying?
And I dare say, before I move, it is also blackmailish.
Blackmail. We'll talk about blackmail.
Is there that in English?
Trevor?
Yes.
Allow me to give some background because Prof has gotten some time to give a background to his submission. Professor Peter Nyong'o was first elected in 1992 in the first, I think, multi-party elections. Senator Cherargei was elected for the first time in 2017. That is about 25 years later. Professor Tom Ojienda was elected in 2022. That's about 30 years later. I'm just giving you a background. And Professor Nyong'o doesn't want to be president. So of course you cannot accuse him of being malicious because maybe he wants to take over from President Ruto. Professor Peter Nyong'o is in his second and final term as governor of Kisumu. And so when he talks of devolution, I do not think that he's selfish in any way because in any case, he's exiting. And so you look at his experience, you look at the consistency that he has exhibited over the years, and when he says something, I have reason to believe him more than Professor Tom Ojienda, who was elected 30 years after Professor Nyong'o was elected for the first time. 25 years after, Senator Cherargei, who was elected 25 years later. I actually, by 1992, I don't know where Senator Cherargei was. If he finds it fit, he can enlighten us, because I think he did not even know how to use a handkerchief by that time. So I have every reason to believe in Professor Peter Nyong'o. But then going to the issues, everybody watched and listened to Raila Amolo Odinga during the burial of his longtime bodyguard, I think Odur.
Yes.
And Raila Amolo Odinga also took issue with the the way devolution is being ran and the way we want to give functions and funds to members of the National Assembly instead of giving the same to governors or county governments. And so, and coupled with that, the Senate has always held the view, at least for the time that I've been in there, the short time that I've been there, elected that years also, after Peter Nyong'o was elected for the first time, has always held the view that resources should follow functions. And there have been many things that people have been saying, and all of us follow the happenings every day. We have been asking ourselves, things like market structures that President Ruto's government is constructing all over the country, and it's a good thing. And these are devolved functions. So the argument has been, if President Ruto really wanted to strengthen devolution, and I think that is where Professor Peter Nyong'o is coming from, then these funds, instead of the national government constructing markets, these funds would then be entrusted and passed to county governments to implement these particular projects. Aggregation centers. I know there is one being constructed in Murang'a or proposed. But then where the county government is supposed to contribute 250 million, the national government 250 million. Then the question would be, why not give or pass this particular contribution by the national government to the county government? It is in the implementation. I think that is where the problem is. In the implementation, that let the county governments be empowered more. Of course, Professor Ojienda has talked about the framework governing this. And of course, we know that according to the Constitution, only 15% of the national revenue is supposed to be given to be passed to counties at most. A minimum, not a non, at least 15%. Yeah. But then if the president, who is head of the national government, wants to strengthen devolution even more. Remember, each one of us comes from a particular county. Then we would want to strengthen or to empower county governments more. And not only that, Trevor, this standoff between members of the National Assembly and the county governments about the RMLF. Yeah. I think they concede that, Peter Nyong'o did not write the details, did not indicate why. Yeah. He thought that the president was clawing back on the gains made, especially about the devolution. But the thing is, even if you follow Raila Amolo Odinga's submission at that funeral, the thing is, why do you want the national government to control, especially, road funds? Yeah. But then the reason is, although Wakili doesn't want us to talk about politics, there is politics in everything. The thing is, President Ruto does not want to cede construction, especially of permanent roads, say tarmac roads, to counties, because he wants to make political mileage out of it. He wants to be seen, when he comes to Nandi, he wants to be seen to be the one who constructed the road from, I don't know Nandi well, from maybe a particular town, Kapsabet, to another interior, something like that. And so, in summary, I think I want to believe Peter Nyong'o as somebody who has been there even in the second liberation. Okay. And when they sense dangers of this, remember also James Orengo has also been a bit uncomfortable with the psychophancy and that kind of thing, because we cannot afford to go back to those days of repression. Okay. And I think that is where Professor Nyong'o is coming. We're
coming to what Orengo said in just a bit, and of course Nyamori took issue with that. We'll talk about that. But Nyamori, let me hear from you. Do you agree with this statement from Professor Nyong'o that there's a clawback on devolution and we're heading back to the Nyayo eras, in as much as all the senators are saying that functions, resources should follow functions?
I would want to tell Senator Nyotu that it is we, the residents of Kisumu, who know where the shoe is pinching us. Yeah. We are deeply troubled by that statement. Because the statement was a contradiction in itself. You know very well that just a few months ago, Professor Nyong'o went public and pleaded with the president to take over Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital.
Very good.
Indicating that the county is unable to manage it. Okay? The president acceded, took it to cabinet, and had the cabinet approve that the hospital becomes a national parastatal in the league of Kenyatta National Hospital. In Professor Nyong'o's statement, he not only talks about Kera and Kura, he accuses national government of inability to manage Kenyatta National Hospital. The question that we then ask as citizens of Kisumu, if he thinks that the national government cannot manage Kenyatta National Hospital as a parastatal, why is he taking a county asset and services to the national government? The question then that we are asking, at what point should we believe that the good professor is in his proper faculties to make decisions? Is it when he becomes an activist and attacks the president and the national government? Or is it when he appeals to the national government to help the county? My point is this, and this is critical. It is important to appreciate that President Joe Biden was prevailed upon not to run again because of age and health. It is important to appreciate that Pope Benedict XVI was asked and prevailed upon to actually step down because of age and health.
Yes.
The question that we are asking in the streets of Kisumu, have we gotten to a time when we should encourage our good old professor, whom we respect, for his role in the Second Liberation, for his role as an academia? I'm a student. Before I studied law, I first studied economics. And one of the scholars that we studied in economics was Professor Nyong'o, and we appreciate and celebrate him to that effect. But there is either something wrong or what the professor is doing is fraudulent. Then I want to finish by saying that Kura and Kera are statutorily established institutions. To tinker with them, you need to go into the legislative process to get to correct the process. If the president expressed an opinion, it is just an opinion. It will take MPs and senators, the three who are here, to legislate it in parliament and make a decision. If Professor Nyong'o has a different view from the president, then he should offer that view. But there is Trevor, there is good reason why the president could be talking about the issue that the national government should be given authority to deal with roads. And that is because, come to my county. I come from a village called Nyamwari. I can't drive to my village because the county has failed to maintain those roads. The county is completely incapable of maintaining our infrastructure. There is economies of scale that comes with the national government planning the road networks across the country together. There would be reduction of costs, there would be increase in efficiency, there would be competitive advantage, and there would be opportunities to invest. If they are tackled at the national level, the president is then able to go to China and negotiate a PPP. The county governments are incapable of doing that. So it is important that we be a little bit sober as we discuss this issue, but appeal to the old professor not to embarrass our county.
Step down.
Okay.
If Prof is asking me to tell the old professor to step down, I don't want to get there. But we are being concerned as a county.
Okay. Let's bring in Cherargei on this. Cherargei, what are your statements on this issue? Is it going back on devolution, or are we?
I agree largely with if an hippopotamus tells you the crocodile is unwell, there is nothing else to say, because most of my colleagues have alluded the good professor is playing cheap populist. And when I read that letter and the response and attacking the president, I found it, and even I tweeted about it, I found it does not have basis. It's more of populism, it's more pedestrian. And these are saboteurs of broad-based arrangement. Him, Orengo, and Sifuna. And therefore, they have been trying in all means to sabotage the broad-based arrangement government, which has undermined the success, the stability. You can listen to the good senator of a number of serious projects that are ongoing in Nyanza region. Yet he is telling us that we are going back to Nyaro era. Yet Nyanza for the first time has gotten very serious projects, number one. Number two, has gotten very senior appointments, including Meisol Resto, CDF Ogola. We now have chairman of budget and finance coming from that region. We now have a CS of money, John Badi, pesa inalala kule Nyanza. So which president, did it happen under Moyera? No. So what Professor Nyong'o is playing to the gallery. He must and should withdraw and apologize to the president. Because what is unfortunate, my brother Trevor, is that the professor can raise this issue at the summit in State House when they meet the president with the governors. He can raise at IBEC, where deputy president sits there. So, and he has received 71 billion. I'm a neighbor to Kisumu County. There is no 71.3 billion in Kisumu. Even the roads are used around Papa Odid, Nyamasaria, all those places, even to your house. You cannot access your house, and those roads are being done by Professor Nyong'o. He has abdicated, delegated his duty. And that is why I'm of the position that these roads should be given to the national government, because even Governor Sang, he's so inept that he has run down even my own village road to access my house, which should be done by the county, cannot be done across. And you are my neighbor and you know that. The issue that we need to do is that Governor Nyong'o, Governor Orengo, and Senator Sifuna must stop blackmailing the president. We shall not allow him an inch. And I want to ask with respectfully His Excellency Prime Minister Raila Odinga, although I've seen people saying he wants to run for Pope, but we want to call them out for trying to attack Baba, we will not take it lightly also, that he must call out. He must call out Governor Nyong'o, Governor Orengo, and Senator Sifuna for this incessant and irritant blackmail and undermine the broad-based government. The broad-based government is one of the best, and I remember they used to accuse Professor Tom Ojenda because he came to government early, and they used to accuse him of giving out tea in State House. I'm surprised whenever they go to State House, it is Professor Tom Ojenda who shows them around the State House. So they must be honest. Finally, Trevor, I wish the Council of Governors have gone to court over RLMF. Yesterday, by the way, in fact, I'm surprised governors did not even involve us. Our meeting with the National Assembly leadership chaired by the Speaker yesterday, Mutula Kilonzo was there. They sat and decided that the court case that Council of Governors has taken to court over 11 billion under road maintenance levy fund, that they stole, yet they didn't involve us as the Senate, because we protect the interest of the so the governors want to have their cake and eat it. Finally, on the issue of these billions of shillings, I agree that we must ensure that counties are well remunerated. They must get equitable. But governors, as much as they demand for more resources, they should tell us how much billions are they using, for example. Number two, they are lying to the people in Mashinani that the only money they get is from equitable shareable revenue. That's not true. They get money from own source revenue, but the revenue potential of Kisumu is more than 1 billion. But he's collecting less than 500 million. Where is the rest? Number two, they are getting loans and grants from World Bank. These monies must show value for the resources that we have. And therefore, even as I conclude with respectful on the issue of Kera and Kura, in fact, I want to tell you, if there are agencies that are so irretrievably corrupt about Kura and Kera. For example, in Kera, what they do, as from the DG's office here in Nairobi, they will call a regional engineer of Kera in Kisumu, do a PQ of grading, marraming, culverting, but they only do grading. So in fact, the EACC must investigate Kera and Kura because they are most corrupt. What we are saying is that the issue of road should be reclassified and restructured, but we should also fight corruption within Kera and Kura because we don't see value for money. Okay. Because even in our local centers, there is no that value that we see, but we are not saying that the national government should not play a role, but we need to harmonize the issue of reclassification and lining of roads within counties.
Trevor, just allow me.
Brought up that I want,
allow me just in one line. You know, I'm the only ODM senator here. This man is UDA.
UDA.
There's three UDA, and I'm the only ODM. So I may have to say something good about Professor Nyong'o, just something good, and that is that
he's acting party leader. At
least in terms of his letter, he has brought out imperatives around devolution and the need to strengthen devolution. He's wrong on President Ruto taking back the country to the Moi era. That is completely unfair. That should be cut off that script.
He should apologize.
He should focus on the Road Maintenance Levy Fund, or RLMF, under the framework of law, being taken to counties to manage. He would have just confined himself to that. And then I would support him and say that, yes, you have a point.
Even senators,
as long as counties, senators support it, as long as counties can show the deliberate need or ability to manage funds, we'll have no problem. Trevor, for instance, I'll just give you an example, just for the sake of what is going on. In Kisumu County, we have the construction of a number of bridges, rehabilitation of Darajambili Kiboswa Road at a cost of 124 million. RLMF would help this process if the money went down.
Correct.
That contract has been awarded. We have the construction of Usare Bridge at 59 million. The upgrading of Maseno Kombewa Road at 1.7 billion. Those are projects that are ongoing. The Koro Township Junction Road, 892 million. And the construction of Awach Bridge, which lead to my village, at 56 billion. These are projects
million.
56, 858 million. That is the Awach Bridge. Awach, I know you are a veteran. You go to, the Kisumu Road because you are a veteran of Black Pearl and Otro. That I know. so I know you. But I know him. I know him.
I want to go to church in Kisumu when I'm in Kisumu.
So he knows the road. But I think there's need to ensure that we balance devolution, give governors power, but let us also have responsibility from counties.
Yes.
When they are given funds,
accountability.
Let them manage them and be accountable, so that when you do oversight, we find projects that are there. And that is why Nyamori is complaining about roads in Kisumu. We have graders. We know county government should at least use the resource to service those county roads. So that we don't have to go. Nyamori needs to reach his home.
All right.
At any time.
Views on this. There's something you brought up in terms of what Governor Orengo also said. In fact, we can even play that soundbite and hear it from you. And I know also Nyamori had a concern with the soundbite. Are they saboteurs, or are they just steadfast leaders telling the president the truth that the king is naked? But listen to what Orengo had to say.
Let us build a society which is based on the Constitution and the rule of law. We can say many things, and me, I cannot be praise singing, because we fought for a democratic constitution where people should talk, where people should talk, where people should talk. I was in Parliament when people used to tell Moi that Moi hakuna mahali utaenda. You will be in power until the day you want to go. They told Moi, and I was in Parliament at that time, there are only a few of us who said we cannot have this system of government. And Raila was the head at that time when Jaramogi died, that we do not want that system of government. So I am asking you Kenyans, this constitution that we fought for, it is a very difficult document to keep. And if you keep on, song praising all the time, we will not have a country. So I urge you, tell your leaders the truth. Tell your leaders the truth. And know that even when, President, when you came here the first time, I was the only one who was here. I was the only one. I was here because I was convinced that institutions must work. A lot of my, even Otiende here said he cannot come.
Joe, are they saboteurs, or are they simply steadfast leaders speaking the truth to power?
Thank you, Trevor, and allow me to correct the impression created by Professor Tom Ojienda that he is the only ODM member here. It's important that the viewers know.
Are you an ODM?
That, just let me finish. It's important for viewers to know and appreciate that Professor Tom Ojienda joined government even before bread-based arrangement. And I say bread-based, deliberately. And so Professor Tom Ojienda supports government. Wakili Nyamori supports government. Senator Cheralge supports government. So the only person here who does not support government for now is Joe Nyuto, Senator for Murang'a, in this particular panel. And so if anybody was going to cry wolf, it should not be Professor Tom Ojienda.
But
allow me also.
UDA accept him.
I'm UDA
Those
on paper,
facts,
of course,
right?
Yes, I'm UDA on paper.
Only Ojienda
but
the rest of you are
yes.
UDA. And also,
Anyway,
Nyamori is not in UDA.
He said he's in UDA.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So three
so and I wanted to say something that, to comment about something before I come to your question. About Professor, I don't know why I keep calling him Professor. Wakili Nyamori's submission, especially on JOTRH. And he said, and he was very passionate in that particular submission, that it was contradictory for Professor Nyong'o to say that the national government is failing in its management of KNH, while he asked the same government to take over JOTRH, and which is a good argument, for argument's sake. But I've been to JOTRH. I was a member of the Committee on Health. Before, of course, I was thrown out, and we visited JOTRH. And the submission by the CEO and the chair of the board was that the major challenge they had with JOTRH was that, of course, being at that level, was it a level 6 or something like that? I may not remember the level, but it was serving other counties outside Kisumu. And Kisumu is not very far from, you could have patients coming from Vihiga, coming from even Nandi, yes, coming from
Kericho,
yes, even yes, and so they were. I think what informed this decision by Professor Nyong'o was that the resources for Kisumu, if what the submission of those particular officers is anything to go by, of course, are being expended to serve members outside of Kisumu County. And so, because of its nature and size and the services that it offered, then it was only important that the national government, which of course now is in every county or is in charge of all the counties, may take over. So I think that is the reasoning behind what Professor Nyong'o asking that the national government takes over. It's because, I think, of the resource constraints. It does not mean that Professor Nyong'o thought that the national government would run it very well. It means it's only that he wanted the national government to take over a responsibility that cut across several counties. And I think that is what I would want to think. The other thing I would want to ask my good friend from today, because we had not met before, Wakili Nyamori, is Trevor, as a Christian, I will never ever talk about somebody's failing health, because it can come to anybody. And I don't think that the letter that Professor Nyong'o wrote had anything to do with health. But just to ask, it's my faith. Anybody's health is not something to discuss. You can discuss age, because, of course, age is not something that it comes to all of us, and we'll all want to grow old. But health, I think that is something that I would want us to avoid discussing. If you note the submission of the three members here, none of them wanted to comment on the position of Raila Amolo Odinga about Kura and Kera because of political reasons. So they want to give Nyong'o the beating but they do not want to touch on Raila Amolo Odinga because of their political interests, because there are issues Raila Amolo Odinga raised in that particular meeting or funeral, and none of them touched on it. It was all centered around Nyong'o. Senator Cherargei, when he comes back, he'll tell you the major projects that this government is doing in Nyanza. He said they are mega projects.
And even Mount Kenya.
He'll enumerate them. When he comes back, let them enumerate them, because the last time I checked, the only mega projects that were done were the refurbishment of Kisumu Airport during the past regime. I mean, there is that, I don't know what you call it, the highway adjoining Kondele going, heading to Kakamega, again an Uhuru project, but maybe they'll help us in the projects that have been done. But now coming to your question about James Orengo. I don't know why people are attacking James Orengo. James Orengo did not mention President Ruto anywhere. He talked about good governance, constitutionalism. And this is what he said, that we want a country governed by the Constitution and the rule of law. He said he cannot praise him. So anybody then having a problem with Nyong'o, with the Governor Orengo, then it is because they want to be members of the choir. And Orengo has said clearly he cannot sing praises for anybody. He had said people should talk, and he repeated that statement for 3 times. People should talk. People should talk. And then he said, tell your leader the truth. I don't know why he's under attack for saying these things, because he said the kind of language that he was hearing there, was worrying, because when you start praising, and we have been here before, Trevor, and we have read about these things, when President Moi would go to Machakos, and people like Mulu Mutisia would say that everything that was there was Moi. When we see ourselves sliding back to such to that kind of arrangement, everybody, remember Orengo was first elected for the information of Senator Cherargei.
Yes.
And Professor Jenda, because I think he may not know, Orengo was first elected in 1979. So Orengo has seen President Moi's rule, Kibaki's rule, Uhuru's rule, and he was there during the second liberation struggle, when untold sufferings were visited on Kenyans who are fighting for democratic space. So when the democratic space is seemingly getting invaded, then James Orengo has every reason, as somebody who has seen it all, to comment about that. And then what again, Trevor, is it about? It's about the ground. I meet so many people, because I walk in town, in Nairobi, and by the way, for your information, we have very many members from the Luo community in Mount Kenya. Very many. In fact, you will go to some very interior places and find some members of the Luo community. Where every time I meet them in town or somebody, they tell me, Senator, and allow me to use the way, how they talk. All of us have our, linguistic, we have mother tongue interference in our talking. So the other day I met a young man who told me, Senator, please stop. Mimi nataka nikuambie, sisi ni watu wa baba, lakini sisi hatuko na yeye kwa Ruto. So what is happening is that the leaders in Nyanza are with Ruto. But the common man, and that is why Orengo is speaking the way he is speaking, because remember, he's in CI all the time. That is why Nyong'o is speaking, because they can listen to the ground, and they know that the people, that Wanjiku is not with the Ruto, only the leaders are. And so this is what informs these kind of statements. And I want to request and invite my friend, Professor Tom Ojienda, to, when you go to Kisumu, please don't go there and just tell people the goodness of Ruto. Go and listen to the ground and listen to what people are telling you. And then when you come back, you will be a better politician, a more realistic politician.
Trevor. Let's go to Prof. Professor.
Trevor, I have spoken severally on speech, free speech. The rights that we have under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, including the freedom to speak, freedom of speech, I think are protected by the Constitution. And of course, you cannot then say that James Orengo, when he spoke, the limb that he spoke on the right to speak, I mean, he's just simply addressing constitutional imperatives. I don't think anyone will attack Orengo for saying that tell your leaders what they need to do. I think where Orengo goes beyond the call of duty is when he gives an impression that certain leaders are simply sycophants and that he cannot be a sycophant. That is beyond the point. And then when you criticize a framework that you're part of, then you must then question the forum. What forum are we dealing with? Trevor, we were celebrating the life of the late Oduor, who was Baba's security for many years. A funeral that was solemn, though politics took center place at some point. There. I saw Baba speak about, I was out on official duty at the time. And Trevor, though even Baba spoke to the road fund at the point, and the role of members of parliament, and of course the devolved units, then protecting devolution. It is important to note that certain conversations were inappropriate. This is what I've said. That is inappropriate to address the president on certain fundamental issues at a funeral. And we must depart from that culture, Trevor. So that is why James Orengo, and then again dealing with the question of the broad-based arrangement. The broad-based arrangement provides a framework for engagement, or so I understand. That these are leaders who sit on table and discuss key issues. I am sure that when James Orengo receives funds for Siaya County, he ensures they are appropriated for the benefit of the people of Siaya, and he ensures that development projects within Siaya go. I would have preferred that he speaks, remember the barrier was in Siaya, to key projects that were outstanding in Siaya. You go and address and speak to, President, we want to address this question, the county is working this, we are short on funds on the development of, say, key projects within Siaya. That would make sense, but you don't just go in and level a critique on the entire framework and arrangement, which your party leader, Baba, who is sitting there, is part of. I think that's that's the only concern.
And Nyamuri, your Ramogi Professional Caucus actually took issue with this. You even called a press conference. In fact, you alluded to Orengo to apologize or get impeached for this. What was so wrong with what he said?
Again, Ramogi Professional Caucus is, a caucus that brings together public intellectuals. Intellectuals who are engaged on public matters, who are concerned about the governance of the country, about the economy of the country. What brings us together is the cultural heritage that we are the granddaughters and sons of Ramogi. We are focused towards, moving our region to the next level. We had issue with Governor Orengo, and we have raised it, and we have called him out, and we are happy that it has generated a debate both locally and nationally and the issue we are raising is the governor is guilty of misconduct. Whether it gets to gross misconduct is another thing. Okay, and that is because the choice of venue for his attacks on the president was wrong. The president came to mourn with the community, to mourn a celebrated son, to mourn with his friend. And it was a somber mood. Everybody was speaking to the character of George Oduor. Orengo then, for no apparent reason, takes on a tangent. And he is given to that. He did that during the burial of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, when the President Moi came to bury Jaramogi. He did that during the burial of the late Wakili Odede, who was the chairperson of the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. And so that is one issue. The other thing is that we ask ourselves, when the governor has a microphone, what are the priorities that he should speak to? Especially when the head of state is attending the venue. We expect him to, learn from the escalator strategy in advocacy. And that is that you have 5 seconds to speak to priorities. Orengo is not an activist in Siaya who can talk about civil and political rights. Orengo is a duty bearer. He's a governor. He's a head of government. We expect him to cultivate diplomatic relations with the other governors and with the president, okay? So that his county and the residents of Siaya can benefit as much as possible. He failed. Trevor, we called the press conference to remind Governor Orengo that we celebrate them for the second liberation. And that is how we celebrate Governor Nyong'o also. But we achieved the objectives of second liberation when we got the Constitution in 2010. Our focus is now on economic liberation. And economic liberation, the question is that at his age of 74, what can he guide us to do? And we need the struggle that is happening, the discussion that is happening in Nyanza, is that there's a struggle between emerging leadership that Orengo seems to have a problem with. And that is the Dr. Raymond Omolos, that is the Governor Wanga, that is the CS Mbadi, that is the CS Wandai, that is the Professor Ojienda, who are younger, who are emerging, and who are taking over the space, and an old generation who do not want to cede space. And I would want to invite Senator Nyong'o to mislead us. His governor is 45 years old. He was in student politics later after me. I was in student politics too, later after me. I am graying, okay? My governor is 81 years old. Orengo is 74 years old. There's a problem with that. While his region is moving towards a younger generation, Senator Cheregai, look at his age. His governor is a friend of mine. His governor was somebody I work with in youth activities, younger than me, younger than him. So as a region, we would want to cultivate new leadership.
Me, but not
okay? As we do this, we would want to protect, cultivate, and build the legacy of our doyen of opposition, the respected Baba, Raila Odinga. And we will build and protect that legacy
of Baba
by ensuring that what he had achieved with his regiments during the second liberation is protected and sustained through an economic liberation. And the economic liberation, we can only achieve it by being on the decision-making table. This government has given us seats on the decision-making table. The Attorney General is a daughter of my county, married in Siaya. The CS for finance, for treasury, is from my region. Okay? So if we are talking about budgets, the energy is what drives the economy. It's from my region. The PS for internal security and national coordination, Dr. Raymond Omolo, is a young man from my region. With the PS for health, which is our greatest problem, that Professor Nyong'o has failed in, is from our region. What else do we need? Do we need? Why do we need to speak to the president at a funeral? Why don't we? The chairman of budget is from our region. My friend, Honorable Atandi. We have all the avenues to engage the president in a boardroom. Okay? And to actually advise the president in the boardroom on what needs to be done. What we are telling Professor Nyong'o is that the people of Nyanza, the people of Nyanza, guided and Orengo, guided and blessed by Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, have moved on. We will work with this government. We will support this government. We are in a commitment to ensure that this government serves up to 2032. When we get to 2032, we will have a candidate.
Okay.
For president.
And that is why we say Papa poured back.
Exactly.
On a lighter note, I think Senator Nyong'o should just be a playwright, and I will send him to Malala for tips on how to do a good playwright, because he has acted more than we want. Maybe two things I can say about. I served, by the way, with Governor Orengo.
Yes.
Governor Orengo is just an activist. He's stuck in the past, and he suffers from hangover, and he hangover of the past, and he consumes some substance that I would want to not to say in a public forum.
What's wrong with you?
And secondly, Governor Orengo, when he speaks about democracy, and I want Senator Nyong'o to listen to this, he brought his deputy governor, William Odwol. We refused to impeach. He went ahead, allegedly, to sponsor goons to block his deputy governor from doing his duty as a deputy governor. So when he talks about democracy, he doesn't practice in CIA. In fact, I expect the Ramogi professionals should call Governor Orengo out, because his deputy governor, William Odwol, after the Senate failed to impeach because we didn't found substantive reasons to impeach him, he cannot access his office. He cannot access his car. He cannot get his salary. Where I want Orengo, when he speaks, he should look at himself at the mirror and tell us he is just being pretentious. He is crying more the loudest than the bereaved. And anytime the president goes to Siaya, Orengo has never mentioned even one statement about the projects of Siaya County as a governor, or even request the president on the projects of national that should be done in Siaya. And that is why I'm still insisting the saboteurs of broad-based government. The chief saboteur is Governor Orengo, assisted by Nyong'o, and supervised by Senator Sifuna. And that is why they are hell-bent to sabotage the broad-based arrangement where the people of Luo Nyanza have never had a chance to sit on decision-making, where the people of Luo Nyanza are now part of government. They were not born to be relocated to opposition. The people of Luo Nyanza must and should be in the government table to discuss. Secondly, Governor Orengo, in as much as we appreciate the second liberation, he should borrow best practices on how to run the county like Governor Irungu Kang'ata, where we are having a moving dialysis machine. He is doing a good job giving out subsidized fertilizer and seeds. He should go to see Kimani Wamatangi on how to run a government. He should visit Mutula Kilonzo, and I think Ramogi should fund and ensure so that he can see Governor Kang'ata, Governor Wamatangi, Governor Mutula. Yeah. Of course, he should not visit Sang, because Governor Sang has changed the county of Nandi from being source of champions to source of corruption. So I would advise him not to visit
my
Nandi.
friend. He's my friend. Governor Sang is my friend.
In fact, he should have been impeached 2 times than Orengo. So the final point that I wanted to make is Governor Orengo feels threatened with the emergence of new blood.
Okay.
CSOP Wandai, CS Mbadi,
okay.
PS Raymond Omolo. He feels threatened. He cannot imagine that his juniors are running the country, while him is stuck somewhere in the village in Siaya.
Okay.
We want to ask him if he respects Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
He should respect the broad-based arrangement.
All right, you two. Just 1 minute.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, Senator Charalge has said that I'm a playwright, and I should take some tutorials from Senator Malala. And thank you for identifying that particular potential in me. But Senator Charalge he does very well with mischief. He's the kind of person that in the House will, when he doesn't want to vote for a bill, he will just start shouting, and when he's told, Senator Charalge, please take your seat, he will not, he will shout even the more, so that he's kicked out by the speaker. So I think he also needs to write a book on how to be mischievous, especially in the House, and how to also spy.
You need to protect him.
Remember,
as the moderator.
remember Senator Charalge.
It's okay.
Was used as a spy by President Ruto, and he used to follow Rigiji all the time when he was deputy president. And he used to speak like he was Rigiji's friend. But now you know he's a spy. He was a spy And so he can also write that in his book, After Mischief, then How to Spy, and to report back to the master. So the many people, I mean, they have talked about that Senator, I've listened to Wakili and he's saying that Orengo is not an activist in Siaya. He should not be talking about human rights violation. I just wanted to remind Wakili, and being a lawyer, of course, he should know that you are first a citizen and then senator, governor, Wakili, or something like that. Yeah. And so as a citizen of Kenya, you have a right to speak. Any citizen, you have a right in your capacity as a citizen. Yeah. You have a right to speak against the violation of human rights in any place and to anybody. You know, I've listened to Wakili also talk about the age of leaders, that Nyong'o is 81.
Which Wakili? We are three?
No. Okay. You are senator, he's senator. Wakili Nyamori.
Okay. I hope you're going to do a comparative analysis between
I'm coming to that, Wakili.
Your governors and ours.
Yes. And in fact, I'm with you in that argument that older leaders should give room to younger leaders.
Correct.
But he did not say whether Raila Amolo Odinga also, who is 80 years this year, he did not tell us whether he avoided telling us that Raila Odinga then, following the same argument, should cede leadership to the younger generation. That he won't say, because he's interested in a political seat. So when we sit here, we are just pontificating about things, but we are not honest with ourselves. You know, Wakili here, you will see a professional, but he's a politician. That's why he avoids saying Baba should also go home, as Nyong'o and Orengo go home. He has, you know, I watched Wakili talking about, he's from my region. I'm all from my region. The PS is from my region. My region. Had it been somebody from Mount Kenya, Murima, it would have been, see, they believe they are the only ones who can lead. So, you know, let us not preach water while drinking wine. Let us accept that our society is ethnicized as Kenya, and not blame one region for it. And finally, because I do not want to take more time, in fact, we don't have time, I know. Professor Ojenda said that Orengo implied that some leaders were sycophantic, and that is the problem he had with the submission by Orengo in that funeral. And he just made the right implication. It is the truth. You know, you will even go to Senate forums, and you will see now pro-government ODM legislators, you know, supporting government even more than UDA legislators. So that is the sycophancy Orengo was talking about. But I invite all of them to listen to the ground. Kwa sababu, kwa ground mambo ni
tofauti. Gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much. That is the state of the nation. Asante ni sana.